YouTube, it's Ank here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about what raid bosses I would like to see added to GPO. So let's just clarify what a raid boss is first and talk a little bit about what that means. So in my opinion, or in my mind, what a boss raid is it's a really challenging fight that you can't necessarily do solo, and that it works best if the boss in question uses like large AoE moves and is somewhat predictable but has lots of health too. The reason why I say somewhat predictable is because I feel like when you're having a boss raid fight, it's very much like everyone just goes in and does their best to fight the boss, and like certain moves you have to dodge. So it's I think having that kind of element of like predictability would be really nice. But overall, it's just a super hard boss that you can't really do solo and requires, like a raid party. And also, I'd like it to have a pretty large cooldown. So now, like normally usual bosses, I think it's like 10 minutes for a boss to respawn. However, I think raid bosses should be more closer to like half an hour to an hour. The reason why I say this is because I think they should drop much rarer loot, like devil fruits, etc., and shouldn't necessarily be farmable like easily. Like you can do the same boss again and again and again, but I feel like a raid boss should be something you have to like time it perfectly and get like a whole group together and like plan it in advance. So yeah, here are some ideas for boss raids in Grand Peace Online. So the first boss raid that came to mind was the Skypiea giant snake, or the Skypean giant snake, that is known as Nola, or the Master of the Sky. So this makes for a good boss raid because it has a large hitbox and its attacks would do a lot of damage, and it would incentivize players to return to Skypiea even after becoming max level. Because I feel like in GPO currently, there are very little like, unless you're searching for devil fruits, there are very little like motivations for you to go back to the old islands and look at those. So I feel like having this like raid boss in Skypiea would definitely have the players would incentivize the main player base to go back to Skypiea and fight this new boss. Because I'm assuming this boss would require like a max level raid party. So yeah. And if you aren't familiar with what this boss is, I've probably already shown a photo on screen earlier, but I'll probably show it again here. It's basically just this giant snake. It's this giant, like, it looks kind of like a sea beast kind of thing, but it's actually just a giant, like, venom, like, cobra, I think. It's like a huge snake. And I feel like this would definitely spice up Skypiea, because right now Skypiea, I mean, you have the main boss of Enel, and you have, the burn bazooka guy. I can't remember his name. Yeah, you have those two bosses. But then if we had this boss in, it would kind of add that, like, final challenge before you leave Skypiea. So I think this would definitely be a really cool boss to have, or a raid boss to have. And the second raid boss is a really interesting one, and it's kind of super connected to an island as well. So in Thriller Bark, there is this giant, like demon giant called Oars, and I think Oars would be a really cool raid boss because he's this huge giant demon guy, and he has large AoE attacks, and he'd probably be like have this huge like range and such, and it'd be an awesome boss fight if done well. Like imagine you pull up to Thriller Bark and like you wait, your whole like raid party of max level like low gear users are just waiting there, and then this huge like demon giant just approaches you. I'm just picturing this really awesome scene. I feel like it'd be a really interesting experience to play through. So yeah, definitely Oars would be a really cool raid boss. The third raid boss raid bosses, in my opinion, that would be a good idea, would be Dory and Broggy from Little Garden. So they could drop their weapons because they're both giants, and they both use huge swords and shields, and they're kind of like ginormous Vikings, so it makes sense, that's a pretty simple concept to grasp. But I would assume they drop loads of XP, and as stated earlier, maybe devil fruits. I feel like having these raid bosses that spawn really rarely, but drop devil fruits could be awesome. Also, this would make sense because we're going into the second sea, and Little Garden is a Grand Peace, is a Grand Line Island, not a Grand Peace Island. It's a Grand Line Island, so it makes sense that it'll be coming soon. So it'd be really cool to see Dory and Broggy at Little Garden as these huge raid bosses. And obviously it wouldn't cause too much lag because they'd only spawn rarely because of the cooldown. So like after someone killed them, it'd be like a good like hour or half an hour before they respawned. Maybe even longer. I think half an hour is a little bit short, so maybe closer to like an hour or like an hour and a half. Next we have Blackbeard. So now Blackbeard was a difficult choice for me because I wasn't sure if I should make him just a normal boss or a raid boss. However, I decided on a raid boss because I feel like he has that kind of like raid boss energy, in my opinion. Like, if you've ever seen Blackbeard in the anime, he's a very like intimidating figure, and he's a Yonko now, so he's really like high up on the like status wise. But overall, I feel like him being a normal boss would be kind of underwhelming, so a raid boss would make much more sense. I'm assuming his like Yami attacks would be awesome, like so much range and like huge AoE moves. And it also would make sense if he dropped Devil Fruits, because of course his powers allow him to steal Devil Fruits. Although we don't know that is because of his fruit or because it just like his body. It's a really complicated topic, so I'll go into that in a different video. But overall, Blackbeard has this connection to Devil Fruits, so it makes sense that he would be able to, you know, drop them. But overall, I feel like these bosses should just drop Devil Fruits because they are like, you know, they spawn less frequently, and they're also, you know, there's not a lot of drops you can get from them. Next up we have Kaido. This is the final raid boss I wanted to talk about, and the reason why I thought Kaido should be a raid boss and not just a normal boss is because, in my opinion, Kaido is he's just such a huge character, like, in terms of both power and just his actual size. Like, if you've seen the anime or the manga, when he transforms into his dragon form, it's this huge dragon. It's the size of like a village, and it's like in full dragon form, it's just ginormous, even bigger than a giant. So I think that'd be a really cool like raid boss. Like, imagine you pull up, you do whatever quest it is to like start the raid boss fight, and then this huge like dragon just descends from the sky and just uses like all his moves. Like I think he has some sort of like tornado moves and like more like typical like blasting moves. So that would make sense as a raid boss. It'd be cool to fight him like in Wano, but obviously if Kaido's going to be a raid boss, you'd have to replace the normal boss with something else. So maybe it could be like Jack and the other dinosaur zones. I know Jack's a mammoth, but Jack the Trout and like all the other like dinosaur zones who are in Kaido's crew, maybe they could be the main bosses, and then Kaido could be like this ultimate like raid boss. I feel like that would make sense. And again, he could drop, you know, his Kanabo, like his big weapon, his big club, or Devil Fruits. And yeah, that was 5 raid bosses that I think should be added to GPO. I put a little bit of thought into this. I went over, like, I had to like look up One Piece characters that are like huge, because I was trying to find characters that would really like have that raid boss like energy. So like I was looking through like all the different big characters, and of course we had the giant snake at Skypiea. That was pretty obvious. I thought that'll make a really cool boss because it's already like a giant. It practically is a boss. Like, if you see a giant snake of that size, you'd be like, okay, this is a raid boss. Oars from Thriller Bark, sorry, I think works perfectly because obviously the main boss of Thriller Bark has to be Moria or Gecko Moria. I apologize. I'm still stuttering, guys. I'm trying to work on that, but I still have to stutter. But yeah, Gecko Moria would be the main boss, and then Oars could be like the raid boss. And when it comes to Dory and Broggy, I've never seen him in a One Piece game. The only game that I know that has Little Garden is One Piece Final Chapter 2, and even then there was no mobs on the island, so there was no Dory and Broggy there. However, I think it would be awesome to see Dory and Broggy on the Little Garden like area. That'd be really cool to see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I might go with Blackbeard quickly. So yeah, Blackbeard is a pretty obvious choice. You know, he's just this really powerful character. So I think Blox Fruits and King Legacy have like a Blackbeard raid boss. I might be wrong on that. I haven't really played the games fully, so I can't really comment. But I think they have raid bosses for Blackbeard, which is a good idea. We have Kaido. Obviously, Kaido is just, you know, he's so powerful. It would be kind of underwhelming if he was a normal boss. Like, imagine you could farm Kaido. I'd be like, what? You're just farming Kaido? This is terrible. Kaido should have like this super like different energy, like this different power level to all the other bosses. And yeah, I kind of went on a huge tangent there, but that was 5 raid bosses that I'd like to see in GPO. As always, I try and keep my videos an open discussion, So if you want to share your thoughts in the comments below, please go ahead and do that. I would love to hear what you have to say about raid bosses and which characters you think should be raid bosses. But with that out of the way, I do have to end the video here, so I hope you're having a great day, evening, or whatever time it is for you, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye guys.